2017, there were 281 reported concussions in the NFL. With this, 96% of ex-NFL players come out of the NFL with a brain disease due to head trauma. I find it amazing that so many parents allow their children to play football starting at a young age, 8 years old, and there's so much risk. I played football in high school my freshman year and was lucky enough not to get a concussion, unlike 4 other people on my team. Now, football is America's sport, and there's a culture behind it, and it's the brotherhood and the aspect of team that makes it so undeniable that people want to play it. And obviously, all of our chances in the NFL, playing in the NFL, are very slim at this point, but I'm not here today to tell you not to play football. Today, I would like to give you some valuable information on why I believe youth tackle football should be no longer played. I encourage you to take this information that I give you today and think about the risk that someone that you may know who's playing football, that they take every time they step on the field. As an adult, you should not let your children play youth tackle football for 3 main reasons: risk of a head injury, negative long-term effects, and there are many other safer alternatives. So, first, let's talk about the football culture. Now, an idea that a football player has when he's on the field is, unless he's been taken out on a stretcher, he's going to stay on, so he's got his team's back, and even if he is dizzy after a big hit, he's going to stay in the field. And a lot of this mindset starts with your coach. From a young age, and this is an example of that.
This is Friday Night Tykes.
Hey, guys.
Okay, wait. I can't really get behind this little guy here.
This
Let's go. Emilio, you better not let Roman run you over like a freight train. You better not. Get up there, Emilio. Bring down, Emilio. Bring down, Emilio. Oh, my God. Emilio. Don't do it. Don't start crying. There's nothing wrong with you. You just embarrassed. You are not hurt. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You are not hurt. Come on, you'll get another try. Get in line. Shake it off.
Look at Emilio's face. Does he look happy? No. He just got absolutely crushed. He just got by another kid much bigger than him. And his coach is basically telling him, he's not asking, are you okay? He's saying you are okay. He's saying, get through this and stay on the team. You have your team's back. Now, from experience, I took a concussion test, a cognitive test testing my attention span, reaction time, and other cognitive skills before football season. And everyone does this, so just in case you do have a big hit, you can take this again to see if you do have a concussion. Now, a lot of people will actually fail this test on purpose to begin the season, so if they do get a concussion, they can pass it, and then they can keep playing. And it's as described by Gregory Sean in his 2014 article, Obama's Youth Concussion Summit. There's actually a lacking amount of data in youth football of how many concussions there are because coaches refuse to report a concussion because then that player has to sit out. Or players who are on the field and are feeling dizzy and feel like they do have a concussion won't tell anyone because they want to help their team. So, concussions. Kimberly Hill designed a study last year called Concussion Symptoms and Return to Playtime. And the most common reported concussion symptoms were headaches, dizziness, and difficulty concentrating. Now, for a student, a young child in middle school or high school, they are going to be so behind on schoolwork because once you have a concussion, you're taking time off school, your parents have to take time off work to be with you, and it's mentally just exhausting to just look at light and use your brain, really, which is kind of scary. Earlier this year, Zachary Kerr wrote the article, in 2014, Buckle Your Chin Strap, John Hutsucker tells us the story of Blake Ripple. Ripple used to live a normal life and was an honor student in high school, but after suffering 37 concussions in football, he no longer can live independently. So it doesn't have to be a huge blow where you're on the ground and you're like, that kid has a concussion. It's the little minor blows to the head and brain trauma that adds up. And in some severe cases, Matthew Futterman of the Wall Street Journal last year wrote about Kenny Bowie getting concussed during a game and then being cleared to play 2 weeks later. In the following game, Bowie took a bad hit to the head and was rushed to the hospital, and 3 days later, he died. So concussions are also not easy to test. Like I said, like cognitive testing was how they tested at my school. But it's not like a broken ankle where you can see the bone is actually is broken. The brain is very complex and hard to analyze. So let's talk about long-term effects. In 2014, Gary Matthews of USA Today studied brains of deceased former NFL players and discovered that their memory and cognitive issues led to dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, and CTE. Now, my dad grew up in Texas, which has probably the highest football culture, the most amount of youth football programs. And he talks about talking to his friends today who are dealing with bad knee problems and dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're not even 60 years old yet. And a lot of that has to do with them playing football their whole lives. In 2016, Andrew Deck of Popular Mechanics wrote that more than 2,000 former NFL players are suing the NFL allegedly that they weren't warned about long-term risk of concussions. So, these NFL players who spent their whole careers playing football are now starting to also notice that it's really hard on your body and hard on your brain. Now, I do understand. I did play football. I played team sports growing up, and it is fun. You get this brotherhood that you might not find in another sport. You are having a fun time with your friends. You're going to be in the best shape of your life. You're going to be strong and fit. And you get to show that you're the toughest guy in the field. You get to show that you're tougher than that guy. Because you're staying out there. This is J.J. Watt, whose nose is completely broken, but he's playing out there, and he's showing everyone that he's the man. But in John Miller's piece, Gridiron Glory, wasn't always so. Published by USA Today, he states, sports like football not only make us distinctly Americans, they make us better Americans. And this is important because this is the American culture feeding the fire of trying to get their children to play football and continuing that. So, other alternatives, flag football. I played flag football growing up, had a great time. It was really fun, and I didn't get a concussion. And I'm still here today, and I'm happy. So you can play flag football instead of getting tackled, hurting your head. Also, the NFL is starting to recognize that concussions are people are becoming more aware of concussions, and the group Heads Up, earlier this year, Zachary co-wrote an article called Coaches' Implementation of Heads Up Football. Heads Up Football is basically a program that coaches have to pass through that teaches them about equipment fitting, tackling technique, and strategies for reducing player-to-player contact and concussion recognition and awareness information. So they have to pass this test before they become a coach for their youth football team. In conclusion, I know there's an undeniable resist to play football as a young kid. What's more fun than a bunch of testosterone-filled boys running around tackling each other? But there's nothing we can immediately do to fix the problem. But I think there are cases where you can impact the decision of someone whether or not they should play football. You can explain to them that there are high risks of head injury, negative long-term effects, and other alternative, safer options.